Grace and peace, everybody. Welcome to Berean TV. I just wanted to drop this short video. Somebody asked me. I was chopping it up with I think it might have been Elder J. Someone online. I'm talking to so many people. I think it was Elder J. We were talking, and he said, "Berean, let me ask you a question." He said, "Why do so many people claim the doctrines of ancient Kemet when we came from West Africa and they don't deal with the Yoruba and different belief systems from West Africa? Why are everybody or so many people in the conscious community trying to claim Egyptian doctrine and mystery teachings and as part of their culture when it's known that that was not taught to the West Africans?" And that's an excellent question, because a lot of people, for some strange reason, think that Kemetic doctrine was everybody on the entire continent of Africa was following one religion. In the history of the continent, a Kebulan of Africa, in the history of the continent, no one religion ever ruled supreme among all the people. But I do have to bring up Dr. John Henry Clark. I believe it is Dr. John Henry Clark and John G. Jackson and Brother Jabbar from something I recently saw on Sinetta TV. Now, Brother Jabbar, he's interesting to listen to. He says that he's been initiated into the mystery, so to speak. I'm gonna summarize what he was saying. He's a high priest in the ancient Kemetic order, and he's also a graduate from Cornell in New York. That's a big thing. Cornell is, that's where some sharp people go there. And he said he's a graduate from Cornell, and he speaks as a priest. He's only one of about two or three people that you would see that they speak, and when they're speaking, they'll have an ankh with them, which is the symbol of life to Egypt. That's the cross with the hook on it. And he said that he's a priest in that order, and he's a graduate from Cornell. So I tend to listen to what he say, because he says he had the ability to wear his priestly hat, and so to speak, and he can take it off and speak as an historian. And I believe that he was saying on Sinetta TV, I hope I could find a link to join it at the bottom of this video. He said that he knows everybody's not going to be connected, especially in this time that we're living in with DNA and stuff, that everybody's not going to be connected genetically, or when we say far as DNA, or that's the belief system in West Africa, but it's still important for us, or for people of African descent, to be connected to Egypt because of its spiritual system. And I'm hoping I'm quoting the brother correctly. When it comes to Kemet, when we start talking about ancient Kemet and the people that's hooked on ancient Kemet and this is ours, we have to understand that the movement that we call the Afrocentric movement, that now is called the conscious community, and people that follow those teachings, that Dr. John Henry Clark and John G. Jackson, they say the important thing is Kemet. Kemet, or Egypt, has always been the struggle. Europeans have tried to take it off of the continent of Africa and make North Africa part of Europe, or part of what we would call Asia, or, and they would come up with words like the Middle East because of their accomplishments, to pull it away from the rest of Africa, the Sudan and Sub-Sahara Africa, and all the rest of the continent, because of their accomplishments, because of their spiritual systems, and it seems to be because of their high knowledge and teachings. And that's been going on since Napoleon time, a little before Napoleon in the 1700s. They've been basically, from the birth of Egyptology, they've been trying to do that. So it's always been a war with Kemet. And Dr. Clark and John G. Jackson and others, they believe that in all actuality, to win the war on Africa, against Eurocentric, because that's really why the Afrocentric movement started, because white people had God and white people had everything on the planet white. And Africa was labeled as the dark continent, and nothing good came from Africa, no matter so many countries received the resources from there. We can go back to Firestone, and that brother, the Rhodes scholar, is named after him, Cecil Rhodes, and so many other people got wealth off of the continent of Africa and their resources and their people. So there's been a struggle from Egypt, for Egypt, or for ancient Kemet, I should say, and that's important. So I just wanted to bring those two things out. Y'all check out that brother Jabari on Sinetta TV, but him and Dr. Clark and John G. Jackson, they've always felt that way. So some people may say, it's been thousands of years, Egyptian civilization fell, but people of African descent and those that came on slave ships from West Africa, they should connect themselves back to ancient Egypt to and pick up those principles of Mayat. We have to admit the Egyptians were among the first people on the continent to speak about receiving life after this death, when they start speaking about the Ba and the Ka, and that's important. But far as history, and when we start reading books, I don't see anywhere that anybody from West Africa were practicing any of the Kemetic doctrines. And hopefully somebody that's truthful, that follows that, that's a priest or that follows that, they'll understand that historically, no, we cannot prove that. But, for different reasons, they argue why we should study that, or why that is important to a lot of people over here. A lot of people don't want Yoruba. A lot of people don't want regular West African traditions, when history points to that's where a large portion of slaves come from. When we start dealing with slavery too, a lot of people don't understand the majority of slaves that came over here, they didn't come to America. And what else I just wanted to bring out? A lot of white people didn't even have slaves. Maybe I'll get into another video where we get into the casting system and what people would call poor white trash and how that whole thing developed. But a lot of white people didn't have slaves. I like to give the full history. I like to lay the entire things out. A lot of Europeans argued against slavery from the very beginning. It's interesting to read the history of some Quakers here and abroad back in Europe, and how many of them fought against that, and they were involved in the Underground Railroad, and I've brought that out in other videos also. Many Europeans were involved in the Underground Railroad and moving and helping Harriet Tubman. I think another gripe I have with the conscious community, they don't give the slaves enough credit. A lot of times they will make statements like the religion was forced on us. There were many slaves that learned how to read from Europeans, like Frederick Douglass. And Frederick Douglass clearly can read the biblical text and see what his slave master that he ran away from, that his slave master and the belief in the Bible that's known as Christianity and what a slave master practiced were two different things. Too many people in the conscious community makes it sound like, oh, we were just retarded. Like we would, excuse the words, but like we were just crazy and we just forced on us and we were so dumb we couldn't tell the difference. If you go back to the writings of Frederick Douglass, as a matter of fact, just read there's so many slave narratives. If you go back and take your time and read slave narratives, there's so many places where the slaves knew what the master was calling Christianity and what Massa was doing and what the Bible was speaking about were two distinct things. And people in the conscious community want to erase that history and act like black slaves were just crazy and docile and dumb. But if you go back even to Marcus Garvey said himself, the Christianity of the Bible and what's practiced in the Bible by Jesus and what the slave masters were doing and what Americans are doing now with racial divide and stuff like that, a lot of that isn't Christianity. Now, they'll say there's a lot of people, there's a lot of Christians. What we're doing is speaking truth to power. Now, if you're an athlete and different people have different views on this, but if you want to protest, we have the right to do that in America. That's what's important. That we have the right to protest in America, and we're just telling America, don't be hypocrites. Treat us like y'all say all men are created equal. Treat us that way. We thank God that we're in a country where we can speak our mind. I don't like the president. I can say that without being killed in the United States of America, and that's important. A lot of people that's ignorant, they'll start running off, well, y'all go back to, this old crazy stuff. That's some other stuff, though. But I wanted to bring those couple of things out. But when we start dealing with the urban, I want to talk to urban apologists now that's in the hood, that's banging, people that's speaking against the conscious community, black Hebrew Israelites. We're discussing things online with them, people in the Kemetic community, and so many other people. We have to be careful. I think it was last August 17, I think it was August 29th, 27th of 2017. That something was leaked out, and they say that the FBI is looking at black identity extremists. Black identity, y'all Google that, black identity extremists and the FBI and the government's attempting to say that there's certain people, they want to bunch everybody together. So we have to be careful if we're part of Black Lives Matter. If I make more posts, if I'm posting things concerning anything that they can deem radical, quote unquote radical, and this is a large spectrum where we have to be careful because pastors, people that are urban apologists that say, well, listen, we don't accept the white Jesus. Some people like when you say, oh, you hate Hebrew Israelites, y'all are crazy and this and that. And, oh, and Brother Berean, we love what you're saying. And they like that. But when you start saying you don't accept the white Jesus whatsoever, because historically, that's not right and exact, some people get upset. And if you make, I think it was more than a dozen posts. Don't quote me if I'm wrong. I may be wrong with that, but about a dozen posts they're monitoring Facebook, and they just want to throw you on a list. Black identity extremists. You're identifying with blackness. You're talking about African church fathers in the Bible and how Christianity or the belief was in Africa. Or if you just talk about Kemet too much and I don't know Europeans and racism and you use certain words, they're gonna flag you and they're gonna put you on a watch list like you're a black extremist. And they'll give us a lot of people don't know proper history. I think European Jews built a monument and they talk about history and Hitler so it won't happen again. This is why history is important. And some people attempted to take away another ethnic group's history and start it where they desired to start it because history is important. And even if we go back to the Panthers, when we start dealing with the Panthers, they want to make the Panthers and the Nation of Islam. Those are crazy, wild. We have to keep an eye on them. And J. Edgar Hoover and everything he was doing in the beginning and the formulating of the FBI, that they were, the whole COINTEL thing. Y'all just Google that if you're not familiar with that. That we have to be careful because they'll try to give you the impression that the Nation of Islam, people that were speaking out, outside of Dr. Martin Luther King and the good old quote unquote good old Christians, as people would feel, and a lot of people don't even know his history, that he was that he was definitely a radical. A lot of people would have you thinking that the Black Panthers were running around here killing white people, running the house, murdering, kidnapping babies and chopping heads off and burning down houses. No. In all actuality, that was the job of the Ku Klux Klan, who some believe had connections with the FBI, but we're going to leave that alone right there because they already have me flagged. So just be careful. The Ku Klux Klan were doing one thing, but people have a way of taking something and flipping it around. Just like the football players, I said they're kneeling because they don't like certain things that's going on with people of African descent. And police officers, they're flipping it. Donald Trump is flipping it on the owners of the football game. The football owners are trying to flip it on them and flip it on the players like it's about the flag. Find out about the last verse in the national anthem. It's a lot that we don't know, so we have to continue with the research and the digging and everything. I just wanted to drop this video to let y'all know there's a lot to look out for. Just be mindful in your post. Be mindful in your post if you're urban apologists and we're going in online dealing with the conscious community. We just want fairness. We want fairness. We're children of the Most High God, and we want to be treated fair in this country, and we can speak out against it, and we love the country for that. Just give us what's ours, America. Don't be hypocrites.